So let's have a little bit of a chat. So I have been wanting to talk about this for a while, I guess for the past 2 months, because 2021, as February is almost over, that means we've been in this year for 2 months. And I have some things I want to talk about. So I have been on booktube for, I want to say, the past, what, 3 years-ish? Let's make this actually official. I don't even know when my first booktube video technically was. I always say I started my booktube channel when I did my unpopular opinions book tag. So my unpopular opinions book tag was posted 3 years ago, and that might actually be 4 years ago because that was posted in 2017. So in the case of booktube, I have been reading books and talking about them on the internet for 4 years. That's just, it blows my mind. And through most of those 4 years, I feel like my rating system and the way that I read books and how critical I am of books has changed drastically from year to year. I've always been a reader ever since I learned how to read. I've always loved books. I've always consistently read throughout my entire life. But it wasn't really until I got onto booktube where I started to actually look at books critically, especially outside of school, academia, that kind of thing. Because of course during school you're going to look at everything that you read critically because that's kind of what's expected of you in school. But a lot of times outside of school, when I would do reading for fun or for leisure, I wouldn't really read books very critically. I would just kind of, you know, read a book. If I liked it, great. If I didn't like it, whatever, I can just move on to the next book. And I also wasn't really talking about these books with other people. I wasn't putting my opinions of these books out there on the internet or even just out there in any of my friend circles. Like, nobody I knew read. Nobody I had any contact with was interested in bookish opinions, so I just didn't really have anyone to bounce ideas or opinions off of. And I feel like as I've gone through my booktube journey, I've definitely become a bit more critical of what I've read, but still throughout these couple of past years, I still feel like I've been pretty lenient with how I read books, how I rate them, and how I review them. At the start of 2021, I really wanted to make a goal for myself of reviewing every single book that I read, which kind of means that I have to take a deeper look at the books that I'm reading, that I actually have to like think about them a little more than just worrying about what I'm gonna say about them in like a wrap up. So it takes a bit more of energy and brain power than just being like, okay, I'm just gonna like talk about this book in a wrap up, then I never have to think about it again. And I don't go into like super heavy detail in my reviews. If you ever look at my Goodreads, especially with the most recent reviews that I've done, they're about maybe 3 paragraphs long, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes they're only 2 paragraphs, but mostly they're around 3 paragraphs, which really isn't a very long review at all. Like a couple of years ago when I was reviewing books on Goodreads, I would talk about them for paragraphs and paragraphs, and I just had a lot of things to say about them, but I still feel like I wasn't really thinking super critically about what I was reading. And I also don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing to not think critically about the books that you're reading. I think as long as you're enjoying what you're reading and you're doing so with kind of the knowledge of what you're consuming, what you don't want to consume, what you want to support, what you don't want to support. I don't feel like you necessarily have to read with a super critical eye, and I'll fight anybody who says that you have to, because you know what? We're all just reading. We all read at a different pace. We all read different things and have different opinions and have different things that we like, and we're all going to interact with books super differently. However, for me, while I was looking through my read shelf on Goodreads, especially going back to like last year, the year before that, the year before that, it seemed to me that I was being really, really lenient on my rating system. And even in 2020, my rating system changed. I started rating books at a 3-star that I actually enjoyed but had issues with, instead of before I used to rate it as 3 stars was really bad. So basically anything 3 stars and below, it could have been like indistinguishable really. And I think for me, it's important to be transparent with my rating system, especially since I have a booktube channel. I talk about books on all of my platforms. I am recommending books, I am rating them, I'm reviewing them. So I feel like I kind of have to be transparent with everyone, because what might be a 3-star for you might be a 2-star for me or a 4-star for me. So I kind of want to make that super clear, especially since it's changed even from 2020 to 2021. So far in 2021, I have read 17 books. That might change by the time that I upload this video, but for now, I have read 17 books. And even in the month of February, I've already rated 3 books 2 stars, which is pretty unheard of for me. I don't tend to utilize the 1 and 2 star ratings on Goodreads very often. If I feel like a book is going to be a 1 or 2 stars, I usually DNF it. I usually just like, I'm not gonna read this. It's a waste of my time. I have better things to do, better things to read. I'm not gonna read them. But this year, I've definitely pushed myself to enjoy 1 and 2 star books for what they are, and actually finish them and rate them and review them. I know that for me, when I'm using Goodreads or really any other like book rating website system, whatever, I find a lot of value in 1 and 2 star ratings. And I feel like when I'm not contributing to those ratings and reviews, I feel like I'm kind of doing everyone a disservice. Not that everyone's gonna like, you know, wonder what I think of whatever book, but I do know that like if I'm going to think about buying a book or if I want to check a book out, I will look at the ratings and I'll look at 5 stars, 4 stars, but I'll also look at 1 and 2 star ratings as well. And also, I've started to feel like it's a disservice to myself when I don't read 1 and 2 star books, because I'm not getting kind of the full scope of what I could be reading, what my tastes are. And this year has definitely been illuminating for figuring out what I really like in books and what I really don't like in books. Especially since I spend money on my books, I do want to finish reading them if it's a book that I've spent time and money on. Also in the past, I want to say 2.5 years, I have definitely been reading a lot more adult fiction, which is really exciting for me. I remember back in 2019, I kind of made the resolution that I wanted to really dedicate myself to actually reading adult fiction and giving it a fighting chance. So I kind of want to make an entire video about me reading adult fiction, getting into adult fiction, how I started to read it more regularly. But that's going to be a whole different video. Right now, I just want to say that I'm really enjoying adult fiction, and, you know, don't be too intimidated by it. I can totally relate to the feeling of being intimidated by adult fiction, but when you're starting out in adult fiction, don't worry about DNFing. DNF to your heart's content. Figure out what you like, and it'll be so much easier going on from there. Anyway, back to the way that I have been reading and rating books lately. I feel like with as many books that I have been reading this year, it's definitely been a lot more than previous years. Like I said, I've already read 17 books this year, which feels really good. But I feel like with the amount of books that I have been reading, I've definitely been coming into contact with books that like I just don't like. I don't like it. 1 or 2 star rating, and I've had to really accept that, because in years past when I have encountered a 1 or 2 star book, it sort of sends me into this huge reading slump. I can't finish a book, I can't start a book. It really feels like a block. But this year, I've kind of tried to embrace those 1 and 2 star ratings. You know, I've definitely, like I said, I've given my fair share of 1 and 2 star ratings this year already. And while I do feel kind of guilty about those, and I feel like, should I have rated them that low? Am I being, you know, fair? I kind of have to just stick with like the feelings that I have, the opinions that I have, back them up, and move on to the next without worrying too much about them. Because I notice that when I worry too much about a rating, or I worry too much about how much I disliked a book, it can really hinder my ability to move on to the next book, move on with my TBR, and stick with reading. And also with my updating reading, reviewing, rating style, I also was kind of, you know, especially towards the end of 2020, I had like a conversation with myself being like, do you want to be somebody in the booktube community where people can read your reviews or look at your ratings or look at the books that you're recommending and trust you on what you're recommending, what you're not recommending? And are they going to take your opinion seriously? And for me, that's super, super important. And I feel like, you know, I haven't made that a priority in my booktube channel before. But now when I look back at some of my reviews or some of my ratings or books that I rated really highly when maybe I didn't really feel that way about them, it kind of makes me a little bit embarrassed. I don't know if anyone else feels that way as well, or if that's like a relatable feeling when you kind of just like go back maybe like a year or so into your Goodreads or wherever you keep your read books, and you look at them, you look at the ratings, and you're like, why does that have a 5-star rating from me? Why is that a 4-star rating? Like, why, what was I thinking when I rated this book that now I have completely lukewarm feelings towards? Why did I rate that a 5-star? Why was I like, oh, I love this book, oh my gosh, it was amazing? It feels so weird when it's completely out of context and I'm just like looking at this book that I don't have any emotional connection towards, that didn't really affect me in any sort of way. I'm like, how was that a 5-star rating? With a 5-star rating, I feel like it has to be a really great book plus this emotional intensity that you feel towards it. It has to be both of those things, because if it's a really great book but you didn't really like feel any type of way about it, I feel like that's more of a 4-star rating. I don't know if anyone else feels that way as well, but to me that's what those ratings kind of represent. So when I see a book that I maybe, you know, feel lukewarm towards and that I don't really think was that great of a book, but yet like 3 years ago I rated it 5 stars, I'm just like, what was I thinking? And I don't want that to happen with my 2021 reviews. I don't want to like in 4 years from now look back at these reviews and these ratings and be like, what was she thinking? And I know that's probably inevitable. That's probably inescapable. I can't change that. I still want to work towards curating my lists of books and being like, okay, what's the real 5-star? What's the real 4-star? You know, and so on and so forth. And I haven't really rated too many books 5 stars this year. It's been a couple of them, but not the majority, which feels really good to me. The majority of ratings that I've given this year have been anywhere from 4 to 1 star. So I feel a little bit better about my rating system, but I feel like also some of my friends and some of my followers on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, have been a little bit surprised by my ratings because, you know, historically, I have rated a lot of books very kindly, very generously, and I think that some people see a review for a 1 or 2 star book from me and they're like, whoa, what happened? And I've also talked about this a lot in my vlogs where I've tried to catch myself talking too generously about a book, and this definitely happened while I was editing my last vlog and I was talking about Girl Serpent Thorn, and I kept wondering to myself, I'm like, why was I starting off a clip by saying I'm really enjoying this book, I'm really liking it, it's amazing, however and then going on this rant of like how much I hated that book. And so I'm like, why do I keep doing this even though I said I wasn't going to do it? And it's definitely a really bad habit that I've tried to break, especially while doing vlogs, where I don't want to be overly kind about a book that I didn't like. And throughout being on booktube, I've definitely prided myself on being super kind towards books that I didn't like, and that's always been kind of like my thing. I've seen other reviewers, I've seen other booktubers, bloggers, whatever, and I'm like, wow, they're being really mean about this book that they didn't like. I feel like this is kind of not fair. But now I see myself being way too nice about these 1 and 2 star books, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing that? Why do I feel like I need to be this diplomatic, super nice person about a book that I think is kind of garbage? Like, I'm allowed to have those negative opinions, I'm allowed to have those negative feelings, and for so long I felt like I wasn't afforded those kind of negative feelings. Like, I would see other people doing that and I'd be like, oh, that's not me, that can't be me, I would never say something like that about a book. But really, like, what's the problem with that? Why is that so wrong to me? Why do I feel like I can't express negative emotions? And I feel like that's definitely the facade I put up. I think that that has a lot more baggage, possibly, that we are not gonna unpack in this video. But that's just to say, at the root of it, I don't want to be superficially kind about books that I didn't like. I don't want to sugarcoat things. I don't want to make it seem like I liked a book more than I did, because I want to be real with you guys. I want to be honest. I want all of you to feel like you can trust my opinions, that you can trust me when I say I did like a book or I didn't like a book. And I don't want it to be like, oh, they rated it, you know, 5 stars. I'm not gonna believe that rating. It's, you know, whatever. She rates everything 5 stars. You know, they just give out whatever rating that they feel like, and it's no big deal. Like, no, I want it to be like, I want you all to trust me on my ratings and my reviews, and to take those things seriously. So I put a lot of effort into my channel, and I put a lot of effort into reading books and reviewing them and giving recommendations. So of course I want those recommendations, those ratings, those videos to be taken seriously, instead of just being like, oh, they're just doing this just for whatever. Like, they don't really care about this channel. They don't really care about the books that they're rating. Which maybe no one's feeling like that. Maybe no one's thinking that about me. But that's just my, you know, internal anxiety talking. And, you know, I'm always wanting to improve this channel. I feel like if you look at my videos from 4 years ago and you compare them to now, I think that there is a definite improvement, and I don't want that to plateau and just be like, okay, I'm fine with how things are now. No need for improvement here. Because I can let you know, I will be the first to tell you, I have a lot of improvements that I would like to make about not only this channel, but myself, my reading habits, the things that I pick up. I want improvement. So overall, this was all just to say that, you know, my rating system has clearly changed. I think I kind of touched on that throughout the entire video, that a 5-star now definitely carries more weight than it did 2, 3, 4 years ago. And that, you know, a lot of the books that I read now are probably going to be somewhere between a 3 and a 1 star, and that's just totally fine. I have to embrace that. I have to accept that. And that doesn't mean that, you know, all of these books are necessarily objectively bad, but that's just how I feel, and I want to be more critical of a reader. I want people to trust my opinions when I talk about books, and that's just kind of the long and short of it. So I love doing these kind of talking, ranting kind of videos. I hope you enjoy them as well. If you want me to talk about any other topics or anything else, leave them down below in a comment, because I definitely have some more ideas for talky kind of videos. I would love to do more of them. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads. All of the links are down below for everything you can follow me on. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye! Ooh,